Hello, good morning. My name is Stacy. I'm the high school pastor here at Casas, and I am so excited to be joined on stage by my very good friend, Andrea Benjamin.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
I have known Andrea, I think we've grown up together. We had bowl cuts at really similar times. We've known.
It was cute.
It was so cute. We've
Thanks,
known
Mom.
each other for a very long time. But if you were here last week, we launched our new theme for the year, which is to love like you are loved. And Andrea is just a person who in every aspect of her life just lives out that theme. And so later today, we're actually going to get to hear from her and hear some of her stories of how she lives and experiences that theme. So I'm super glad that you're here this morning.
You're so sweet. It's so great to be here. I have not been back in person since this whole thing started. So it's so cool to be up here and see all of your guys' faces. It's super fun. If you are new here or online, normally I'm online, so that's what I'm used to. But if you're new here or online, there's a QR code that you can kind of shoot your phone at, and it'll pop up a little thing that you can click to say that you're a guest, and we just want to say hey, and
yeah, it just gives us a chance to personally thank you for spending your time with us, whether it is online or it is here on a Sunday morning, because it's very exciting to have you guys. And the other exciting thing that we have for you is an invitation to our first ever drive-through trunk or treat here in the Casas parking lot. So on October 30th from 6 to 8 in the evening, we are going to be hosting a drive-through trunk or treat. So grab your family, dress up, maybe decorate your car, and come hang out with us. There's going to be live music. We're doing a food donation with ICS, and there will be lots of candy while you hang out in your car and actually drive through this course. So October 30th.
It really will be fun. I'm a little more on the reserved side, so I stay home. But this is a super cool way to be safe, but also get to see everyone and have some fun. So I'm very excited.
It's going to be a very fun event. So mark your calendars, October 30th from 6 to 8 at night. But for right now, please go ahead and stand up and join us for worship this morning.
Sing along as we sing about that love he has for us. I searched the world, it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade, are never enough. And you came along, put me back together. Now every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Hey. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not
guys sing this out with me? Faithful forever are you, God? Are you God? Merciful healer, are you God? defender, are you God? Are you God? We do praise you, God, because you are big and you are powerful. And we could stop there, Jesus. Even there, you would still be worth following and still be worth praising. But then you sent your son because you want relationship. And you promise us joy and you promise us peace. And it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. But Father, it's so worth it. So Father, I pray for those who haven't yet experienced that, Lord, that in the little ways this week we would step forward, that we would begin to understand and embrace more and more daily how much you love us and who you say we are, that we might be courageous enough to step into those truths and then deliver them to somebody else, to show somebody else they too can be loved in freedom, with peace and with joy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Man, what a beautiful and very powerful song. Wow. That
Maddie
was
gives me
really great
chills.
to experience this morning, yes. As I mentioned earlier, we launched a new theme last week for our year called Love Like You Are Loved. And Andrea's here just because in all of my experience with you, this is a theme that you have participated in and lived out in so many different parts of your life, including volunteering in high school. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how you see yourself participating in Love Like You Are Loved, maybe when you serve in high school as a small group leader.
Yeah, so I am honored to be a small group leader. They are amazing kids. And so one of the biggest things that makes it easy for me is seeing the positive things, the good things that they do, the great things that they are. They're great human beings. Sometimes it can be a little annoying.
They are teenagers.
Sometimes I have a bad day and I don't feel like maybe I can love them. I go back to those positive things and the way that they interact with each other or have interacted with me or what have you. And it just makes it so much easier to love. And yeah, it's a
and
beautiful thing.
you mentioned to me earlier that when you focus on those positive traits, like what that's brought to your own life and to your own experiences of relationships.
Yeah, I mean, life is more enjoyable when you're able to love people. I'm so much happier when I can love on someone, and when I see positive things in someone's life, it makes me feel better about myself, it makes me feel better about others. It's, life is happier, and who doesn't want to be happy?
Yeah, and this is just for part of your story and my experience with you, this has always been something that's important. I was just wondering maybe why in your life and when you treat people, why loving people like you've been loved, why that's important to you. So
it took me almost my whole life to really understand, feel, and believe God's love. And that's important for me to give to others. I want them to feel that before I felt it. So with these students, it's a great opportunity to pour into their lives so that they can then feel that at a younger age and pour that into other students, because it can be hard. And they really need that now more than ever. And so it's important to me. I tell my girls, they're graduated now, but I always tell them, when you see someone and there's something that you think positive about them, like, oh, her hair's really cute. I'm like, tell her her hair's cute, because that can make their day, It's those small little things that can make all the difference, honestly.
Absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for doing that and for caring for students that way. But also thank you for sharing. I mean, that is a value, that love and that care of others is a value that we have here at Casas, and it's very encouraging. So thank you for sharing that. But we also have another friend named Danny Howe, and he's someone who goes here to Casas and someone who lives out this theme in his everyday life. So we're actually going to watch a video of his story and how he relates to this new theme for the year.
My day job is I work for Pima County One Stop. I help individuals secure employment. And then my wife and I started a couple transitional homes to where we house individuals either coming from homelessness, incarceration, addiction, basically transitioning from where they're at to where they're going. Growing up, I'd always made a series of poor choices, getting in trouble as a young kid. When I turned 18, that's when I picked up my most serious crime, and then I did 4 years in prison on that. And when I got out of prison, and to be honest with you, that's when your prison sentence starts. It's not when you go into prison, right? So when I got out of prison, that's when we started hitting struggles. That's when I started getting told no for housing, got told no for jobs. I couldn't even volunteer for kids' school events, right? So for me, that was the hardest part, not knowing that you can do any of that stuff. And then to be able to vote for any of that to change was out of the window too. And then there's a lot of jobs where you needed fingerprint clearance cards, and those are things that I would never get. So I thought I was stuck to working these minimum wage jobs, entry-level type jobs. And that's what I did. I did construction work, and then I worked in the restaurant for a while. Then I started questioning why. Why can't I have my gun rights back? Why can't I have my voting rights back? Why can't I get my fingerprint clearance card? After asking those questions, I learned that you can get these things back. It's just people don't know that, or they're unfamiliar, so they tell you no. I ended up going down to the courthouse, submitting the motion myself. For me to ask those questions and to get those yeses, I started feeling really great about myself and started getting further in life. Then I kept hearing other people and say, oh, I can't because of my charges. Well, here's a process, here's what you can do, you know? And I would explain those processes to individuals. I'd walk them through it. Individuals that thought that they couldn't have a say-so are now getting their rights restored, getting their voting rights back. One of the reasons I wanted to give back to people is because I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for people giving me an opportunity, right? I go around and I push second chances. Somebody gave me a second chance. Oh, that's all you need. Sometimes that first chance. So for me to be able to help individuals and to be able to help somebody without anything in return was huge. We deal with a lot of people. So I have people come in from horrible life situations that they're fresh out of. Some were old, some have never been sober in their life. So we're helping them transition from that experience to where they're going. So with that, we don't push programs, we don't push counseling, I don't push therapies on individuals. I highly recommend it, highly encourage it. But I feel that recovery doesn't come from somebody telling you out of a book what you need to do. It comes from you respecting yourself, loving yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be successful in life, you know? I've never felt that I needed to change anybody. What I have felt is that I needed to provide a space for somebody to be themselves and to grow with whatever skills they have. I recently told my clients, I don't know you, but I provided you a bed well before I knew you. I loved you enough, and it's not because of anything you did or because I'm a nice guy. It's because God designed you to be in a particular position, and I want to provide that space for you to be the person He designed you to be. So for me, I try to let people have that space to recognize that they are a child of God and that they're going to do great things in their life. I definitely think that I went through what I went through to be in the position that I am in today for these clients, because I know what they've gone through, right? I heard a long time ago, people don't care what you think unless they think that you care. So by me being able to have that passion and understanding with where they're at, I don't ever try to say, I know what you're going through. Because as similar as our stories may be, I don't know what you're going through. I know what I went through, and I know what it was like on my end, so I can try to ease the process for you, but I don't want to change anything for anybody. I don't want anybody to feel that I'm a crutch for them. I want to be able to teach them skills that they can go and use for the rest of their life. That's my goal. I approach every relationship that I have as starting from fresh and scratch, right? So I treat everybody as a human, regardless of what they went through. I have a lot of people ask me, oh, what did they do? What was their crime? What were their charges? Half the time I don't even ask, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to try to judge this individual because they are meeting me where they're at. So whatever they did in the past, the fact that they're here, I have to take that and cherish that, right? And help them get to where they need to be. And that's the whole thing with my halfway houses. I don't call them halfway houses, I say transitional houses, right? Because they're in a transition from where they're at to where they need to be. I need to do my part to help them get there.
That's right. Would you stand? Let's continue in worship. Let's keep celebrating His love this morning. Oh, the wonder of your love leaves me speechless. Oh, the mystery of your grace, how it covers my mistakes. In all of you, I'm in all of you. I've never known love like this, so beautiful. I'll never get used to this. My heart is yours. Of this I am convinced. From now until the end, I've never known love like this, so beautiful. When I think of all you've done, every sin you've overcome, that you would do it all again. Oh, I could never comprehend. In all of you, I'm in all of you. Never known love like this, so beautiful. Never get used to this. My heart is yours. Of this I am convinced. From now until the end, I've never known love like this. So beautiful, so beautiful. Oh, so beautiful. You don't leave me where you found me. You pull me out of the mess. And you don't leave me broken hearted. You never break your promises. You keep giving second chances. Far above what I deserve. You keep telling me I'm worth it. Not a love I have to earn. You don't leave me where you found me. You pull me out of the mess. You don't leave me broken hearted. You never break your promises. You keep giving second chances. Far above what I deserve. You keep telling me I'm worth it. Not a love I have to earn. I've never known love like this, so beautiful. I'll never get used to this. My heart is yours. Of this I am convinced. From now until the end, I've never known love like this. So beautiful, so
You can be seated. If you're at home and you're already sitting down, stay where you're at. It's awesome to have you. It's good to see you guys all here today. For those that I can't see personally, it's awesome to have you with us here. We're gonna step into a time of giving. And you know, one of the things that we say around here about that, about us, the giving of our gifts and our resources and all of that is this phrase. We say, plant your resources where you've planted your life, and then let's all trust each other, right? To water that, to do great things with that, to see what grows and becomes of that. And I just want to say to so many of you that have continued to make that happen, that have continued to plant in that way and water and sustain and make it all happen, thank you for the many beautiful things that continue to happen. Thank you for being a part of this church in an extraordinary way. It's really good. And we got a year ahead of us, right? We're not done. We're still going, so it's good. Can I pray for us as we go to give here today? God, we love you. We thank you. We thank you that you bless us. We thank you for the ways that we can give. God, but above all, Lord, we just ask that you do amazing things with it. Open our own eyes and our own hearts of how we can help water something to make it grow. Open our eyes, our hearts. Give us wisdom, Lord, to the moments we need to step into, the opportunities that are before us. And God, do great things. Thank you for loving us in such a profound way. We want to love people forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. By the way, you know, I forgot to say, is if you are at home, one of the ways that you can do that is through the QR code on your screen. You take your camera out and you can take a picture that way. I just learned how to do that like a week ago. It made me feel older than maybe I am, or maybe I just am. I don't know how it works right now. But learn how to do that. It's easy, it works awesome. There's QR code in the seat backs in front of you guys in here. There's also receptacles at all the doors where you can collect stuff that way too. So whatever way is easiest for you, that's awesome. But I want to tell you today that I'm really excited. I'm excited because last week we started our theme, right? We launched into that, love like you're loved, hence all the shirts that you're starting to see. We're trying to make those available as soon as possible for you all. We'll do that in an orderly, amazing way, so be in tune with that, or be, heads up for that. In the coming weeks, but I'm excited. I'm excited because so many of you, right? So last week, I was able to just put 3 challenges in front of us. One was to pray for someone who's a little different than us, or who we see things opposite of, or who's our enemy. Another one was to just do something to bless somebody for no other reason than that you want them to know how loved they are. And then the last challenge there was really just to say, if you're in a moment, which you're gonna be in, we're all gonna be in at some point, where we're having a disagreement, or somebody says something that's just on the opposite side of whatever fence we're on, to ask them, to start in that moment, rather than be reactive or whatever. Start by just saying, what is it that's most important to you about this? What's the thing in your heart that cares the most about? Well, what is that? Explore that with them. And just see where that takes you as a way of loving people like they're loved, because we want people to know that. The reason I'm excited is so many of you emailed me this last week to say the ways that you either were already doing that and you wanted me to know, or ways that you stepped into it even in this last week. For me, it made me excited to come to work each day. And I mean that. I'm excited normally, but to come to work each day and open my email and see these amazing stories. Some of you guys are loving people in really amazing ways, in profound ways. Some of you think the ways that you're loving people is small, and then I'm reading it going, that is huge. This is like a really, really big deal on there. And it was so encouraging. Friends, I want you to know that you're not the only one doing this. I want you to know that as we enact this theme this year, that you are not alone, and that there is a whole church behind you and with you and a part of that. And it's exciting. It really is. I wanted to share with you all some of the things that are going on beyond this room right now. And it's because I know it's easy to just, we leave our house, drive in our car, and then we sit in our seat at church, and then we go home. And we can miss sometimes the idea that there's a bunch of stuff happening all around us that we're not even always aware of. And I want you to know it so you can recognize you're part of this, and you can be with them too. So children's ministry last week, when kids arrived here, and even this week there was an event and they were handing these out as well. Kids got this little bag, and inside the bag was this. It's a whiteboard, and on the top of the whiteboard it says, I am praying for, and then there's this description of what all this means. And it literally says, love each other as I've loved you. And they take up that challenge that I extended to all of you last week about praying for somebody who's different than them. And kids in our church all got one of these and have gone home and are writing names on these to say, this is who I'm going to pray for this month, somebody who's different than me. Can I tell you how powerful it is to know that the smallest of us is leading the way in praying for people in a powerful way? I found myself thinking about that, getting really excited, going, wow, kids are amazing. And then I was like, wait, I have 2 kids. I should do this with them, right? This shouldn't just be like their journey in private in some moment. Like, this is an opportunity for me. I want to pray for them. This is my challenge too. And so I got really excited about that. I was like, our church needs to know this. Can I share? I want them to know. So this is me telling you that. Be excited. Be praying for your kids as they go through this. Do this with kids. If you're a grandkid, do this with grandkids. Or do this by yourself, just knowing that there's a whole group of people moving with you. I talked to Stacy, who you guys got to hear from a little earlier. She's our high school pastor. And she was saying, you know, this year, the big thing for high schoolers is she's so wanting to create more and more opportunities for them to express that love on a Sunday morning here, and finding more ways for high schoolers to serve, and making that just one of the primary things that high school does on a Sunday morning, which I got really excited about. And to see her heart in that, and to see some of our high schoolers who are now stepping into this and doing amazing things to love like they're loved, made me just as happy as I'll get out. It did. This is a much bigger deal than just any one of us, friends. It's all of us. And I heard from Global Outreach, Becky Lefke, she's our Global Outreach Director. Global Outreach basically just means the ministry that we carry out around the world, right? With all of our different global workers in different countries and all that's happening. Becky said, you know what, it's really challenging this year because all of our short-term trips and so many of the ways that we would typically support have stopped because borders are closed, right? Because of pandemic and how this has all played out. And so what do? Do we just pause all of that? And Becky says, no, they're doing amazing things. They started doing these classes where they would teach English, except now those are electronic and on Zoom. And so normally we'd send a small team of people all the way across the planet, you know what I mean, to go jump into culture in a country and to teach some English for a week or two or however long that's been. And Becky's saying, now I have people that are in this church that wouldn't have even been able to go do some of that stuff that are now teaching classes or have the opportunity to do this for like 6 weeks. So we have people in our church, you all, that are interacting with language learners across the globe, teaching English. And it's not because they're just super passionate that people would become the best English language speakers on the planet. They want them to know how loved they are. And they're going to, and teaching English is just a way to do that, to communicate that and to express that and share their story and hear somebody else's in powerful ways. And that's all happening, pandemic or not, because people like me, like you, us as a church, decided to say we want to love people like we know what it is to be loved. We want to give that same thing away. That's powerful, friends. Don't hear this as an announcement or as an update. This is you, this is me. You are a part of this. So keep stepping into it. Whatever that looks like in your life, if it's the 3 challenges from last week, or if God's doing something unique in your heart where you're saying, you know what, I want to love like I've been loved and I think God's putting this in front of me. Step into that this year as an expression of this church and know that you are not alone and that we are cheering you on. It's exciting. It's really, really cool. Right now, Andy is going to make his way out as we jump back into Romans chapter 12 and explore once again what it means to genuinely love somebody else. So thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Scott. This guy's amazing. Really appreciate all you do, Scott. Thanks. And our whole tech team. They're great. Well, good morning, everybody that's joining us, everyone that's joining us online, and all of you here in the room. It's great to be with you here this morning. Like Ryan said, we're looking at Romans 12, where we started in verse 9 many weeks ago, really rooting all of this within the context that Paul is kind of pointing towards, which is the idea that we need to let love be genuine. In the past weeks, we've looked at kind of different verses that are all kind of challenges, what it looks like to actually let love be genuine. And here today, the verse that we're going to look at, I'm not going to say it yet, I'll say it in a few moments here, is a little bit unique in that the verse we're looking at today was a common sense kind of phrase that had been around for hundreds of years before Paul actually writes it here in the book of Romans. So this verse was found in lots of Greek literature and actually in Jewish wisdom literature almost 300 years before Paul writes it down here. So there's some specific reason that Paul decides to take this kind of what you'd think of as non-religious, kind of a common sense statement that was known in culture and put it right here in Romans, okay? And with that idea in mind, I want to kind of have a little bit of fun with that first, kind of with common sense phrases. So maybe if you're here right now online, maybe think of some common sense phrases like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, something like that. Maybe think of some common sense phrases. And if you're online, maybe you can type in the comments one of those phrases off the top of your head. And everybody here in the room, I actually want to play a game really quick. It's going to be so fun. Okay, I want to play a game. And I'm going to say the first part of a common sense phrase, and then we all will together say the second part of the phrase. Are you ready? What? Oh, wow. You guys are excited. Okay. All right. Here is, I didn't think you were, but you are excited. So the first one. Here we go. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Exactly. Work smarter, not harder. Everybody knows that. Patience is a virtue. Of course it is. The early bird. Oh, and that's why you'd want to be early so you can get the worm. Exactly. What goes up must come down. Yes, it's the law. It's physics. I mean, we know these things, right? Good job, you guys. I'm really proud of you. That was really good. Yeah, actually, that last one kind of reminds me of a story. What goes up must come down. And I'm going to share a story with you that I'm not necessarily proud to share it with you, but I'm going to share it anyways because it kind of proves the point. So about 10 years ago, a bunch of guys around here, we would have this really complex game that we would play. And basically what the game was is like throw something up as high as you can in the air and catch it when it comes back down. That was it. That was the game. Yeah. But we would do it with kind of like big things at times and awkward things. And so we were walking outside. It was right out here. And some of you guys might know Adam Taylor. He used to be our tech director here. Now he's up at Central Church up in Vegas. And so I was walking with Adam, and there was probably 4 or 5 other guys, and we're walking along, and I was like, hey, you guys want to play the game? And it's like, okay. And I had this big water bottle in my hand, and I was like, here we go. And I took this thing, and I just, whoa. I mean, as hard as I could throw it. It was full. As hard as I could throw it. And so we all kind of look up to see, and it's just right in the sun. Just like, oh, what goes up must come down. And it's like we scattered and kind of covered, watch out, watch out. And it's like you could hear it on its descent, kind of increasing. And sure enough, thud, it hits Adam Taylor like square in the back of his head. And yeah, and I felt so bad. And actually, to this day, he really struggles with names and numbers. No, I'm just kidding. He doesn't. It actually fixed him. He's doing really well now. No, I'm just kidding. He's always been great. But I feel like a comedian all of a sudden. Anyway, so I felt so bad. And here's the point, right? There's common sense things all the time that we know that for whatever reason, we don't utilize the common sense that we have and follow it, right? And I think we've all kind of been at that place at times where, just because there's a common phrase out there doesn't mean that we actually practice common sense. I mean, is this true for anybody else? Raise your hand if that's maybe been you. Oh, only one person. Okay. No, somebody else over here. 2. Everybody else is really smart and we're not. Okay. No, that's good. I'm glad that you guys utilize common sense. But this is a real thing. And we kind of think about what Paul does here in kind of including this common sense phrase that we're going to get to in just a moment. There's a reason that he does that. Maybe he saw that this particular action that he was calling them to had kind of maybe drifted a bit as Paul had challenged them with this idea. And here's what I wonder. I wonder if Paul was alive today and was writing this very same letter to us, would he write the same thing? Okay, I really wonder that. I wonder if there are things that maybe have drifted for us. Maybe think for yourself for a second. Think of yourself. I want you to think about maybe when it comes to relationships, the way that we relate to one another. Are there things that you have perhaps kind of stopped doing over time, just really common things that you've always practiced in your relationships, that over time you just kind of stopped doing for some reason? That be true for you? I know it's really true for me. And if you're kind of going like what? Maybe I'm going to throw a couple statements out there and maybe see if you relate to these statements as kind of the things that drift and change over time. All right, here's one statement. I've stopped doing overt things to show my love or appreciation for a friend or loved one as often as I'd like. I think most of us would go like, yeah, when I think about it, like I used to do that a lot more. I used to kind of be a lot more overt in doing some of those things to share appreciation with a person that I love, right? These things kind of change over time. Here's another one, maybe for couples. We've stopped having intentional moments or date nights together. Man, is that true, right? I think there's just things that in our relationships and the way that we relate to each other, they just kind of change as things change. And so today, here's what I want to get at. I'm going to kind of lay out what we're going to do this morning, and it's just super straightforward. I want to take one verse, and actually one part of a verse, that's Paul's actually challenging us with, and I want to look at something that I think maybe kind of stands in the way of us actually practicing what that verse looks like. And then I want to move right to kind of a very specific application and challenge for us so that when we go, my hope is by the time we leave here today, it's been so practical that we can go like, you know what? I'm going to do this when I get home, and this week I'm going to practice this thing, and I think it's going to put me on the path to actually experiencing a little bit more of that genuine love that I have for others in my life. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. You ready to jump in? Okay, I'm leaving. Okay, you ready to jump in? Let's do it. Yes, okay, good. Wow, I'm really forcing the excitement today, aren't I? Like, yes, we're with you. Okay, so here we go. Romans 12, verse 15. I know the suspense was killing you. Romans 12, 15, let's look at it. Rejoice with those who rejoice. We got it up on the screen there for you. And mourn with those who mourn. Again, I want to take the first part of it. The second part is really, really, really important, mourning with those who mourn. But for today, we're just going to take that, put it up on the shelf, look at that at another time, and just come back to the first part of that phrase, because I think for us right now today, it's just the thing for us to focus on is being super, super important, okay? So let's look at the first part of that phrase and unpack it. You ready? Rejoice with those who rejoice. Okay, have a great week, you guys. We'll see you next week. There's not a lot to it. Pretty basic, right? Are we good? Yeah, I mean, it seems, no. There is something very specific that Paul is doing in adding this verse here. Remember, maybe he started to see less and less of that be practiced in people. Rejoice with those who rejoice. And I wonder, when we think specifically about rejoice with those who rejoice, or maybe I'll use the word celebrate, taking time to celebrate with those who need celebration, with those that need to be celebrated, maybe that can kind of drift a little bit for us as well, like we talked about some of those other relational things happening. If we were to ask ourselves that question right now, do we find ourselves readily celebrating with people as often as we would like to? I know if I ask myself that question, I'd go like, yeah, I think I could do better at that. I think I really want to do more with that. I would actually say it's a value for me in my life, and I know that that's true for a lot of you too. I really do. I know a lot of you, and I know how you are, that would be a huge value for you too. But because of how things are around you, you find yourself in a place like, I haven't been doing that as much lately. And that's, I think, what Paul's driving at, that there's moments where we got to get back to the importance of rejoicing and celebrating with each other. Okay, let me just share a story with you that might illustrate this point a little bit better, the importance of rejoicing with others. So probably about, again, it was probably 10, 12 years ago, I was noticing that one of a person on staff was actually kind of struggling a little bit. I could tell that they were discouraged. And I noticed this maybe for about 1 or 2 weeks. And I got to the point where I kind of sat down with them and I said, hey, what's going on? I've noticed that you seem, I don't know, just kind of down and discouraged a little bit lately. What's going on? And we talked for a while, and then he finally started opening up, and he said, well, we accomplished this and this. With work, we did this thing, and then that thing, and then this thing, and then kind of in my personal life, I had this big moment, and you knew about that, and this other thing, but you didn't actually mention any of those things, and you didn't really notice me during those moments, you know? And it was kind of a gut check for me, honestly, because there's a person that I really cherish this person. This person, I cherish them deeply, but somehow they weren't experiencing the feelings that I actually had for this person. They weren't experiencing any kind of genuine love from me. They were actually kind of experiencing the opposite. It was like, hey, I'm over here, but I feel like you don't even see me. And actually, you know what, right at that moment, I started changing the way that I lead because of the way that that moment was experienced. And here's why. Sometimes the common practice of celebrating with a person becomes way too uncommon. And that's detrimental. When we don't celebrate with people, it can actually cause that person to not actually experience the love that we have for them. The simple act of celebrating a person in the moment that they need to be celebrated or rejoiced with. The challenge there and the real detrimental side of not celebrating with people is that it creates major uncertainty in a person's heart towards you, or towards me. That person starts wondering, hey, you're not seeing the things that are happening in my life, you're not acknowledging the aspects of what's going on in my personal life, and they start to wonder and feel very uncertain about where they stand with us. And that can actually be pretty damaging to a person. So I have the question actually for all of us here this morning, all right? You ready? Here's a question that I would like to just pose for all of us when it comes to this idea of really noticing and celebrating people. Are we engaging our heart and our minds to see that a person is standing right in front of us that might not actually be experiencing the love that we have for them? That's a big question. And I think, sometimes our inability to see beyond ourselves, to see a person that's standing right there in front of us, can actually create a kind of ambivalence. When we don't see a person, it can create a kind of ambivalence that actually, I believe, extinguishes the genuine love that we want them to experience from us. They become uncertain when we're not celebrating with others. And if you've heard the term ambivalence before, it really is kind of the state of having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas about something or someone. Okay, can you see how that could happen for a person that we're relating to? Man, you're not celebrating me, you're not noticing me, and they actually start wondering and having this contradictory experience that might be different from what's actually in our heart. We never intended this person to wonder if we actually love them, but because we stopped celebrating them at some point, they actually start to kind of feel the ground shifting beneath them a little bit and feel a kind of ambivalence. Actually, Paul, in the book of Philippians, I want to just kind of mention this one really quick because Paul talks about what can happen for a lot of us when we start to have a bit of kind of like a solo focus, really a self-focus, and how that has an effect on other people. And so let's look at this really quick. Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. And verse 4, rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to our own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. Okay? And here's the point. I don't think you can look at the scripture and go like, oh, I mean, I'm not conceited. I'm not just focused on myself. I'm not just in it for myself. But I think what Paul's driving at is there's a way, and I know that this is true for me, there's a way that we can kind of just start moving through our daily life with our own goals and our own objectives and things to accomplish, that because of the nature of that we actually start kind of putting people a little bit lower and our goals a little bit higher. I think that's what Paul's really getting at here, not saying that there's a bunch of people that are just trying to trample on all kinds of other people, but there's a way that we can focus at times and have another person actually start to kind of be less valued in our eyes. What Paul's getting at is we have to be extremely overt. I think this is what he's saying. We have to be extremely overt about raising up the value of another person in our own heart and in our own lives at all times. And it's an extremely important thing that we have to kind of focus on and commit to. And here's what can happen. Here's what can happen when we don't. When we don't intentionally kind of make it a point to value others in tangible ways, we can actually create that ambivalence that we are talking about, and that is not good. You know, interestingly enough, you may have heard of this, but there's been a bunch of studies that have happened in the last 30 years on ambivalent relationships, and a bunch more that have happened just recently. So in the last 10 years, there were 2 studies. One study was of police officers with their peers, and the other one was married couples, just in marriage relationships. And there was a question that they would ask these couples and the police officers with relationships with their peers. They would ask them individually this specific question to drive at whether or not they were a part of an ambivalent type of relationship. And here's the question. Here's the question that they would ask them. It was this: do you wonder if that person is ever truly happy for you? That's a big question. Really tells the idea that that person can move to a place of going like, I don't know, I've thought this person loved and respected me, but I don't know where I stand now. I don't know if they're happy for me. And maybe let me kind of twist that question around and we can kind of pose it for ourselves when we think about the people that we relate to. Do people wonder if you or I are ever truly happy for them? Just think about that real quick with some of the relationships in your life. Do you think people that you love and care about, do you think they wonder if you're truly happy for them? I mean, you think in a lot of cases we're like, oh yeah, they know that I love them. That's clear as day. And I think that that's absolutely true. And here's what I'm not trying to do this morning. I'm not trying to say that all of us are out there just trying to kind of ruin relationships and that we're trying to kind of create this kind of obscurity that damages people. I'm really not. But there is something that I do want to drive home the point, and it's this: that celebrating other people is one of the best ways for that person to actually authentically experience the genuine love that we have for them. You want to take away the uncertainty, celebrate someone. That's kind of the point. There's a way to take away that person feeling like they're not on solid ground with you. What is it? Notice things in their life and celebrate those moments with them. It's really kind of really practical and easy. That study that I talked about, here's what was damaging about those ambivalent relationships. Those police officers that experienced ambivalent relationships, and in those marriages, people's blood pressure started spiking. And as they were in long-term relationships, they actually started to notice kind of damage to the heart that actually those ambivalent relationships caused some long-term damage for people as they experience those relationships. Can any of you kind of think about relationships like that you've been in? Have you ever been in a place with a person where you go, I just don't know where I stand? Maybe it was a boss or a coworker, and you kind of feel like, I just don't know. And maybe you could even think now and go like, yeah, I could actually feel that I had higher blood pressure when I was around that person. In that study, they found that ambivalent relationships were way more damaging to a person than toxic relationships. I mean, toxic relationships where you kind of identify, well, that person's just a jerk, and they always are that. Because people kind of went like, yeah, I get it, but they're a jerk, you know? And that for a person to actually experience somebody as this, maybe they like, maybe they don't, that was the thing that caused a person to wonder and kind of have that high blood pressure, all right? So what is the point for us here this morning? And it's this: in the season of life that we're all in, where Isn't it challenging right now? Nod your head if it's challenging. Man, it's challenging for most people currently. For just about everybody, the lack of celebrating others only adds to kind of increasing sense of disillusionment and divisiveness all around us. When we're all kind of going, and I've heard people say this, I don't know, I feel this kind of divisiveness. What can I do about it? And what I'm trying to say, I'm trying to give an answer today for it, at least to one aspect of it. Because I think there's one thing that we can do, and it really is celebrating others. I would really like to present out here today that the way that we would actually notice and identify and celebrate others is the way to actually create that solid ground and bring people back together. Take away that confusion of, where do I stand with this person, okay? And here's my big challenge for us, is that if we can impact maybe the way that people experience the genuine love from us, wouldn't we want to do that? Say that again. If we can actually change or impact the way that people experience genuine love, would we want to do that? Yes, we would, and we can, okay? So I want to move into some application here this morning. Again, pretty basic and straightforward, but I would love it to be a challenge for all of us to take on this week, because I think this challenge is something that's not for somebody else, but it really is going to be life-giving for us as well, okay? And again, with this simple idea of being able to celebrate others in their moments where they need celebrating, we can do that. You might go like, okay, I get it, but we know how it is right now. I mean, what is there to celebrate? And here's my answer to that question, because I agree. It's a little challenging to find those really specific moments. And here's the point. We can't look for monumental, warrior-like, championed moments of victory. We actually have to look for those smaller wins. We have to look for those smaller wins in order to be able to celebrate them, okay? Or else those smaller wins become insignificant, and people like us, we could all start to feel diminished if we're not kind of bringing those moments forward, okay? Here's how that looks in my life. I'm just going to give this example because it's a little bit like the challenge that I'm going to give in just a second. One thing that I've been trying to do a lot in the last 6 months, okay? In the last 6 months, I've tried to say, I'm going to ask people point blank, friends, family members, coworkers, I'm going to ask them, what is it in their life that I can help celebrate with them? I've asked them that question point blank, and when they kind of get a little bit like, I don't know, I'll phrase it a little bit differently, and I'll say, what kind of joy have you experienced lately? And talk to me about why you're experiencing that joy. So then they go like, oh yeah, I've got, and they start listing the thing. And then I can come along and go, man, that's amazing, and I can celebrate with them, all right? So here's some of the responses that I've gotten when I've asked friends, coworkers, and family members. One, I started exercising again this week after not working out at all during COVID. It was like, that's a big deal. Seems like a little deal, but man, this person is actually saying, and this is a person that had been feeling kind of some depression and those kind of things, and they're kind of saying like, I want someone to celebrate with me because I'm actually doing something now, and so I celebrated with them. Second thing, somebody else said, I've been shutting off the news at night and taking time to go outside and talk with my wife. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, right? I've committed to slowing down and praying more, a third person said. Another thing, I've committed to believing the best about people around me. This person, I've been talking to them about, a certain situation. They're like, I finally committed to assuming the best about people around me, and it's made a big difference in my own heart, okay? Another one, I've been talking to my kids about different ways to express their love for their friends, and they've been coming up with lots of great ideas of their own. Okay, these are all, they might seem insignificant, all right? But I wanted to make a point here. These are not insignificant moments in the times that we're living in now. These are moments to come alongside and celebrate people. People need this. We need this. The last thing I want to share, a person shared with me, I have 185 days of sobriety today. That's a big deal. Now here's the thing. If I hadn't asked that question, I wouldn't have been able to celebrate with that person. You see how this works? We'd have kind of just gone through the workday or how things go and never actually been able to celebrate with this person, okay? And celebrating right now is so important. I'm going to share something a little bit more vulnerable with you right now on something that I've committed to in my own life with celebrating, and that is, for teachers right now, they are just, and a lot of people, but for teachers, and I feel this because my wife is a teacher, man, they're going through the ringer, and really all the work that they're doing, if you ask any teacher, they don't feel like they're being successful. They'll just tell you flat out. They'll tell you that. So they're working crazy long hours and keep getting new things thrown at them. And guess what? They're actually feeling worse and worse and worse about it. We got teachers quitting all over the place. And here's a commitment that I've made because my wife is a teacher, is that I want to do a lot better job of noticing the little things for her right now that I can celebrate because I love her and I want her to experience that genuine love. How is she going to experience that? Because I'm going to commit to celebrating the tiniest thing with her. And right now, celebrating the tiny things might just be the thing that gets us all through, I think this is a huge, important point for us, okay? So we're going to move into our challenge. And maybe if you get your phone, it's going to kind of come up on the screen. You can use the trick. Sometimes instead of having to write really fast, you take a picture of the screen. Ta-da, yeah. Some people are like, you're talking too fast. Just go, ka-chick. So it'll come up on the screen here, this challenge. You may have heard of this before. It's the 3-coin challenge, okay? What I'd love us all to do this week, all right? Can we do this? What I'd love us all to do this week, the 3-coin challenge, you take 3 coins and you put them either on your dresser or on your desk at work, someplace that you're going to kind of encounter them regularly and be reminded. You put 3 coins on your counter, face up, because you think of people, because it's a face on a coin. So these are 3 people this week that we're all going to intentionally try to celebrate with this week, okay? The 3-coin challenge. So you got 3 there, and as each moment happens that you celebrate with a person, you turn that coin over. And a couple days later, you find the moment, you celebrate with that person, turn the second one over. You get it? So by the end of the week, we've all turned 3 coins over. If you're an overachiever, sure, you can make it the 5-coin challenge. You can make it the 7-coin challenge. I picked 3 because I feel like I really want us to be able to accomplish it. Sometimes when you pick the thing that's too big, it's like, I'll never do that 7 times in a week. So 3-coin challenge, right? You might be going, okay, I can do this, but how do I find the moments to celebrate? How do I find the moments to celebrate with people, all right? And I want to just jump back to what I said before. We got to commit to looking for it. What this means is you wake up in the morning and you're starting to go through your day, you see your coins there, and you go like, okay, I'm going to now commit to looking for this moment, and then when you see it, you're going to celebrate it. Again, don't look for like, I don't know, something crazy. Look for the little moments with a person and then celebrate them. If you're looking really hard and you're still like, Andy, I'm looking really hard and I still can't find those moments, sometimes you just have to ask, okay? Sit down with people, maybe at the dinner table, right? You can have these moments. We try to do this at our dinner table, say like, what's the low point and the high point of the day? What's your favorite point? And those kind of things. And almost always when person shares their like favorite moment in the day, you get a moment to go like and celebrate that person for something that they experienced, right? I'm talking about little things like that. This challenge should be easy. Just turn those coins over, okay? So ask people, okay? Then you might go like, okay, I did it, I found it. How do I do it? I'm going to give you just 4 basic ways that we can actually celebrate with others. First one, and this is something, actually, back in the day, we used to write things. So for younger people, you could actually write a card. They're like, what? Yeah, you can actually write a card to somebody, drop it in their mailbox, whatever. Write a handwritten card. Second thing, maybe a personal moment. Maybe it's the type of thing where you can actually have a one-on-one moment with that person to say like, man, I noticed this thing and I'm proud of you. That's a big deal. You get to actually celebrate one-on-one. Third thing would be maybe you get the opportunity to recognize them and honor them and celebrate them in a team meeting or in a context where with family, whatever, where you're around people. That's another way. And the last way, and this might seem like not a big deal, but I really think it is, when you can text somebody. For instance, if somebody isn't used to getting a text from you in a long time, when you can text somebody and say, hey, I noticed da-da-da-da today, and I want to take a moment to say I'm so proud of you and celebrate that this thing happened for you, fill in the blank. That can be like day changing and week changing for a person. I've experienced it. I've actually received texts like that myself and went, man, did that lift my spirit. That celebration, even in the form of a text, can be very effective, okay? And so that really is the big challenge for us this week. Why? Because it's super important that we need to be a lot more intentional about celebrating people, because without it, that genuine love kind of starts to drop off the radar, all right? And it's actually the very reason that we picked the theme that we picked this year, Love Like You're Loved. We picked Love Like You're Loved because our church leaders, we started to see that there were a lot less moments like this happening, and we also started to see kind of that divisiveness that was starting to happen even within the church. And we picked Romans to teach on, and we picked Love Like You're Loved because we want to get back to being super practical about the things that we can do to change things around us. And it's rooted in love, okay? We want to actually kind of take the highest thing for us, which is practicing genuine love, and keep it the highest thing. That's why this is our theme this year. So in closing this morning, I want to say this, that even as we practice let love be loved, as we love others, as we've been loved, we might not see the world change overnight, but for us as a church, it's going to be our thing.